Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'm excited to introduce our presentation titled Evolution over Revolution. On this first slide, we highlight the idea that sometimes it's better to preach the need for change, but to do so gradually through reform. We'll be exploring Law 45 and how it encourages us to adopt a more measured approach to change rather than rushing into radical shifts. Over the course of this presentation, we'll discuss why steady evolution can often be more effective than abrupt revolution. So, let's get started and see how this principle can impact our strategies moving forward. Everyone understands the need for change in the abstract, right? But when it comes down to everyday life, people are creatures of habit. We tend to stick with what we know because it's comfortable and familiar. Now, too much innovation at once can actually be traumatic. It can cause resistance or even revolt. So if you're stepping into a new position of power, it's really important to show respect for the old ways of doing things. Acknowledge the history and the established practices. And if change is absolutely necessary, try to make it feel like a gentle improvement, something that builds on the past rather than replacing it outright. This approach helps people accept change more smoothly and keeps morale intact. Remember, effective change management is about packing and sensitivity, making sure the transition feels natural and not forced. Let's talk about the psychology of habit. Even when we know that a change makes sense and is actually beneficial, there's often a feeling of chaos that comes along with it. And that feeling can lead to resentment. People tend to cling to the familiar, to the past, because it's known and comfortable. Humans are naturally conservative in many ways. We crave stability and predictability. Radical change disrupts that sense of security and control we rely on daily. This is what I like to call the trauma of the new. When new ideas or behaviors are introduced, it can feel threatening, almost like a trauma, because it shakes up our sense of normalcy. Understanding this helps us realize why change is often so difficult, even when it's the right thing to do. It's a reminder that change isn't just about logic. It's also about managing human emotions and perceptions. Recognizing this can help us approach change more compassionately and effectively. Although he held immense power, he never officially took on the title king. Instead, he preserved the traditional structures of the republic, like the Senate and the consuls, and all the old forms of governance. He lived simply and claimed he was just restoring the old ways of Rome. By doing this, he managed to cloak radical changes in familiar, traditional forms, which helped him rule unchallenged for many decades. What Augustus effectively did was transform Rome from a chaotic republic into an imperial monarchy. In other words, he became the first true emperor of Rome, even if he never officially called himself that. This subtle yet powerful shift set the stage for the Roman Empire we recognize today. So, Augustus's strategy was to maintain the outward appearance of the republic while consolidating all real power into his hands, ensuring stability and his lasting rule. So in this slide, we see that Joseph II's approach was actually too hasty. He pushed forward with reforms, but he didn't adequately prepare his people for these changes. As a result, his subjects saw him not as a reformer, but as a destroyer of their traditions and cultural practices. This led to rebellions, which really undermined his efforts. Tragically, he died feeling defeated, famously saying, "Here lies a prince whose intentions were pure, but who had the misfortune to see all his plans collapse." Now, despite these setbacks, it's important to recognize that Joseph II was an enlightened monarch. His goal was to modernize Austria, and he implemented some significant reforms. For example, he banned outdated burial customs, reorganized the government to make it more efficient, and promoted religious tolerance. These were all progressive ideas aimed at creating a more rational and tolerant society. So, the key takeaway here is that even well-meaning reforms can backfire if not carefully managed and communicated. Joseph II's story reminds us that change must be thoughtfully phased in, especially when it challenges deeply held traditions. This ties into the broader theme of how Enlightenment ideas influenced rulers, but also the challenges they faced in implementing these ideas effectively. Today, I want to talk about the strategy of cloak in tradition. Essentially, This approach involves keeping public rituals unchanged. By doing so, the public perceives stability in the underlying power structure. When people see the same ceremonies over time, they naturally assume that the system is solid and reliable. Another key point is about ritual. It's important to justify new actions by quoting ancient leaders or texts. This makes it seem like we're returning to our pure roots rather than inventing something entirely new. It's a way of tying the present to a respected past, which can lend credibility and legitimacy to change. Finally, keeping the names and forms of titles the same, even if their functions evolve, is a powerful tool. The familiarity of these titles provides comfort to the public, reinforcing continuity and stability. So, in essence, this strategy is about maintaining the appearance of tradition to support new or different actions, ensuring public trust and perception remain intact. When I talk about strategy as the illusion of continuity, I want to emphasize that it's not about erasing the past or destroying what came before. Instead, it's about framing change as an addition, like I'm building a new wing onto your father's house, something that he would have wanted and appreciated. This approach helps people see progress as a natural evolution, rather than a complete rupture from what's familiar. It's crucial to present yourself as the natural continuation of what came before. When you do this, you're not threatening the existing legacy, you're enhancing it. This mindset makes your audience more receptive because they perceive your actions as respectful and aligned with the past. Connecting the eras, this means showing how each step builds on the previous one. It's about creating a sense of flow, of progress that makes sense historically and culturally. When you do this well, it reassures your audience that change is part of a larger, meaningful story, not just an abrupt break. Ultimately, this strategy helps foster trust and acceptance because it frames your vision as an organic part of the ongoing story, rather than something completely new and disconnected. It's a powerful way to guide people through change smoothly and confidently. So, when it comes to implementing change, the key is to do it gradually, much like administering medication. If you introduce too many changes at once, it can be overwhelming or even counterproductive, just like poison. Instead, it's better to let people absorb one change fully before moving on to the next. This approach is often called gradualism, and it helps ensure that change is sustainable and accepted. Another important strategy is to build statues or monuments to past leaders. Speak highly of them, honor their contributions. By doing this, we borrow their legitimacy and reinforce the legitimacy of the current leadership. It's a way of connecting to the people's sense of history and identity. It's crucial to remember that attacking the past or dismissing previous leaders can be seen as attacking the people's identity itself. So, respecting the ancestors and their legacy isn't just about tradition. It's a powerful way to foster stability and trust as we navigate change. This aligns with the overall theme that respecting history and packing change carefully are essential tools for effective leadership. If the old regime was a nightmare, do not link yourself to it. In times of crisis or revolution, sometimes a total break from the past can be incredibly powerful. It's like hitting a reset button to start fresh. But here, the key. Once you make that break, you need to act quickly. You must fill the void left behind with new, strong rituals and symbols, or chaos might creep back in. There is, however, an important exception to keep in mind. If the past is hated and the system is completely broken, then a radical rupture can be justified. In those extreme cases, totally tearing away from the old ways might be necessary to rebuild something better. So, in essence, when you're considering a radical rupture, think about your context carefully. It can be a powerful tool for change, but it's also risky. The overall idea here is that sometimes a decisive break is what's needed to move forward, but it must be accompanied by deliberate efforts to establish new order and stability quickly.